everyone, Roxanne here from FinanceRocks.com. My husband and I recently celebrated our 6-year anniversary of becoming debt-free. So I wanted to share with you guys today 6 lessons learned from these 6 years of being completely debt-free. Now, since we bought our house in cash, that means that we have no mortgage, no rent, no credit card payment, no car payment, no personal loans, no payments to anybody, and it has been great. If your goal is to pay off debt, I hope that this video inspires you and motivates you to keep going because being debt-free is truly amazing. It's something that I am really passionate about and something that I am so excited to get to share with you guys. Paying off debt can be such a slow and painful process, and it can feel like such a heavy burden that maybe it's even hard to believe that you'll ever have it paid off. In the 5 years that it took us to pay off our $49,000 worth of student loan and auto loans, I certainly felt like that at times. I didn't know how long it was going to take. It felt like it was going to take a really long time. So I'm excited to hear from you guys. What is the thing that you are most excited to do once you're debt-free? I'd love it if you dropped in the comment section below what is motivating you right now and what are you really excited about. It's really emotional for me to be debt-free. I remember being a little kid and thinking about how the only thing worse than no money is having negative money, and how badly I wanted to get to the point where I didn't have any debt at all. Like many of you, I'm sure, I remember hearing my parents fight about being able to afford the mortgage, being able to afford the second mortgage, how they were going to pay the bills that month. And I just wanted to live a life where I didn't have that stress every day. How are these payments going to get made? It is such a relief to be free from that stress. I want that for you if that's your goal. That's one of the primary reasons that I have this channel. I want to help people pay off debt. I want to help people reduce the amount of stress that they feel in their lives. I did want to give a little disclaimer for this video. And that disclaimer is that it's kind of difficult for me to parse out the benefits from having above average incomes from the benefits of being debt-free and having low monthly expenses. During these 6 years, our incomes have continued to grow. And while neither of us make like $100,000 per year, we both do make above average incomes. And what's mostly remarkable is that we have 2 of them. So we are DINKs, dual income, no kids. And that certainly brings a lot of financial security to our lives. And that did help us to pay off debt, stay out of debt, build wealth, all those things. So I just wanted to say it is a little difficult for me to parse those out. I did try to just focus on the ones that are specific to having low monthly expenses, not having any debt. And I do believe that being completely debt-free has taught us so much over the last 6 years. Okay, let's go ahead and get into them. The 6 lessons learned from 6 years of being completely debt-free. The first one is that the habits that helped us pay off debt are the same habits that now help us to build wealth. I remember back in the day thinking about how my habits would be different when I had money and, when I didn't have debt. But really, habits followed us from paying off debt to saving and investing. And that makes sense, right? Our habits are deeply ingrained. Of course they're going to stay with us because they're hard to change. Now, that's a good thing if the habit is a desirable one, if it's a frugal habit that helps you to save money. For example, the other day I caught myself eating a bagel with cream cheese in my car because one of the habits I had to help pay off debt was to take snacks and meals with me if I was going to be out running errands for a long time. So that way I didn't have to stop for more expensive fast food or go to a restaurant while I was, running around. We have a lot of little habits that are left over from those times of paying off debt. That's a small example. I wanted to share 3 of the big examples that we have that are these habits that helped us pay off debt and that help us build wealth. The first big habit is tracking spending. I really believe that tracking spending is the keystone habit to improving your finances. If you are not tracking your spending, then it is really hard to know what areas to focus on for cutting back and for improvement. We frequently analyze how much we're spending and compare those numbers to, recommendations for how much to spend in each category, whether that's housing or transportation or food costs. And that is how we noticed a while ago that our food spending had crept up without us really realizing it. I'm embarrassed to say that it was almost $1,000 in 1 month for a household of 2 adults. So now that does include all of our alcohol spending, any restaurants, dining out. We don't separate out like fun spending or blow money or, a lot of people separate those into different categories, but this was just, the entirety of our food spending. And that month in particular, we were stocking up before winter came. I usually do a big shopping trip, and it happened to be in that month. And we did a big liquor store run and stocked up on things for winter as well. So there was a reason that it was so high, but really, it was too high. We identified that that was an area that we needed to focus on. We were able to get that down to about $425 per month, where we kept it for a while before we decided intentionally to increase our spending in that category later. Other benefits of tracking your spending are catching potential fraudulent charges. It is also a prompt to review subscriptions and other recurring expenses that you have. Check back in. Oh, am I still using that? So it's a way to identify things that you can cut out of your spending and therefore saving money towards either debt payoff or building wealth. The second big habit is Kaizen, or constant improvement. And this is a Japanese productivity theory where you're never really done with the journey of improving something. It should be a goal to constantly improve the areas of life that matter to you. I never hit a point where I was like, okay, we're frugal enough. We'll just keep this up, and then by this date, we'll have the debt fully paid off. It wasn't like that. It was always a journey of trying to become more efficient with our money. We still read financial articles all the time on how to save more money. We still make the effort to come up with plans for what we can do to save more money. We still work on education so that we can improve our incomes, whether that is certifications, self-learning through reading, or even formal education. Since we paid off debt, my husband went back to school and got his master's in computer science. So it's still an ongoing journey of, how can we make more? How can we save more? And ultimately, it boils down to this idea that we care about our money, we care about our finances, we care about security, we want to be knowledgeable on the topic, and that belief that it is an ongoing journey of becoming efficient instead of a destination has definitely helped us build wealth. The third big habit is overall financial discipline. Prioritizing the things that we want is a skill. It's a skill that has to be honed. And it's a skill that helped us to pay off debt and now to build wealth. There seems to be a never-ending stream of things that we want, things that we learn about and become interested in, new hobbies to take up. I think that there are very few, if not zero, people that truly do not have to prioritize the things that they want and still be able to build wealth at the same time. Obviously, there's people that don't pay attention, and we focus a lot on being able to prioritize the things that we want and to really sift through which of the things that we want are impulses and that are fleeting, and which are the things that will truly bring value to our life, things that we're really excited about and things we really want to do. Every time I use the word discipline on the channel, I always want to just clarify, people have really negative associations with the word discipline. And when I say it, I'm not talking about like punishment. I think of discipline more as like the path to freedom. And I really got this idea from Terry Crews, has a YouTube channel, and he talks about like the discipline from working out. Ultimately, the discipline to work out gives him the freedom to have a healthy body, gives him the freedom to, hopefully live a long life and a healthy life and to feel good. And I view it the same way with money. The discipline with money gives you the freedom to choose where you want to work. You don't have to stay in a crummy job that you hate. The discipline to say no to things gives you the freedom and opportunity to say yes to other things. And that's really what I'm getting at when I'm talking about financial discipline. And I've even noticed that this ability to say no and this financial discipline that I have, it really helps me to save money. But it also really helps me with investing, I found. The ability to not freak out and sell stocks when the price has gone down, I think has resulted from me building up that emotional discipline from, saying no to buying a cute dress or, having a nicer car. It's the discipline helps us overall to control those emotions when we're investing. Okay, all that, and that was only tip number 1 for our 6 lessons learned. Lesson number 2, being debt-free equals better marriage and better relationships. I recently read a TD America study that said 41% of divorced Gen Xers and 29% of boomers say they ended their marriage due to disagreements about money. It's well known that stress about money affects relationships negatively. And I think that a lot of the times debt is the culprit behind this. Now, while Mr. Finance Rocks and I have had a handful of arguments that are money related, we always have been pretty good about not stressing too much about money. When we were paying off debt, I could only think of 2 times that it really became an issue or that we had kind of a disagreement about it. One was how much to spend on a new computer, and the other one was how to spend limited vacation dollars. I love travel, and so even when we were paying off debt, it was still important to me to do something, even if it was just a little thing like going to visit family. Without debt, money decisions are just easier. They're just lower stakes. There's less on the line. There's less writing on each decision because you just have more flexibility to do what you want. We don't have to spend the mental energy that it takes to decide what we will do if we can't afford a payment to a credit card or a payment on a car loan. Now we both have ample spending cash and neither of us feel deprived. And I can't speak for you or for your spouse, but if I'm not experiencing money stress, I'm just in general an easier person to be around. If you are paying off debt aggressively right now, you probably are saying some tough no's to friends and family members when it comes to planning activities. And I have noticed even for relationships, outside of marriage, that it is just a little easier now that I'm debt free. I just don't have to stress about it so much. I get to give the yeses that I so badly wanted to give when I had to give the difficult no's. Lesson learned number 3, the power of low expenses. This is probably the biggest lesson that I've learned from being debt-free. Did you know that the average American homeowner pays $2,151 per month in payments on debt? Here's the breakdown. $1,029 on a mortgage payment, $365 for auto loan, $351 student loans, $250 for personal loans, and $156 for credit card minimum payments. Now that we're debt-free, we can do whatever we want with that $2,151 that everyone else is spending every month. This is what makes it possible for us to give more, save more, and pay for unexpected expenses out of our income and not even needing to touch emergency funds when things come up. This is great because I am apparently a bonehead who will go 7 years without going to the dentist just because I hadn't had a cavity before, and then end up with a $2,000 dental bill. That was 13 cavities, not enjoyed. But it was such a relief when I got that bill, when they sat me down and told me how much it was going to cost, to know that, I wouldn't even need to touch our emergency funds. We would just take that money that was extra that month and put it towards that. Now, when we have months that don't have $2,000 surprise dental bills, what we typically do with excess cash is just save and invest it. This has allowed us to have very high savings rates for most of the time that we've been debt-free. We've been able to save between 50 and 60% of our income every month. And I even looked back to try to find the record high savings rate month for us. And there was one month in 2019 where we actually spent 13% of our take-home pay and saved and invested the rest. Just let that sink in for a second. We only needed 13% of the money that we made in order to survive that month. Now, that was a 3-pay period month, so it was, an outlier. Certainly, they're not all like that. So that was 71% of our pre-tax income, 87% savings rate on our post-tax income. So 87% of post-tax means we spent 13% of the money we received. That is crazy. That is flexibility, I will tell you that. Lesson number 4. We are happy spending $40,000 per year, so why spend more? Now, this is not to say that we'll never spend more than $40,000 per year. Certainly, we might intentionally decide to increase that at some point. But I had assumed that after we were done paying off debt, that we would be spending more money. But really, it hasn't increased that much. Since becoming debt-free, I've realized that we were really fostering a sense of contentment with our spending level, which at the time had to be quite a bit lower than our income since we were trying to speed pay debt. So the space between our expenses and our income was going to debt at the time. And I'm a big believer that we need to be finding happiness and be saving money at the same time. Otherwise, it's just not sustainable for the long term, whether that's the long term of paying off debt or the long term of saving and investing for retirement or the long term of saving up for a down payment. Whatever the goal is, if you are happy and can find contentment at a low spending level, then that is just going to lead to happiness and contentment at higher income levels as well. So we basically just transitioned from having our income here, expenses here, with the remainder going to paying off debt, to that remainder being saved and invested. And really that is how you build wealth, is putting money aside every month. An interesting observation that I've made as well is that other factors tend to come up once money no longer is a factor or is as big of a factor. So some examples of that, we would like to dine out more at restaurants, but eating at home is healthier and we're trying to be healthy. So we could increase our spending on restaurants even more. But at this point, we want to minimize that so that we can eat healthy most of the time. We'd like to spend more on entertainment, but we barely have enough time as it is to enjoy the games and streaming service and movies and, hobbies that we have. So we don't really have time to, spend more on those things. We'd like to spend more on travel, but we are already mostly maxing out the number of days per year that Mr. Finance Rocks can take off of work. And then we like buying stuff, but essentially I am trying to reduce the amount of stuff that we have. We have more stuff than I can reasonably keep cleaned and organized, and I'd like to be more minimalist, not less, that our house can be less cluttered and more pleasant to be in. The main takeaway here is to try to find happiness and contentment at whatever level of spending you're at, and preferably at a lower level of spending than what you're currently at. Don't delay feeling happiness until after you hit, the next level of income. Try not to tie your happiness to your level of income. There's plenty of people that spend more than the $60,600 per year average spending level that are unhappy, and there's plenty of people who spend way less than that and are happy. Lesson number 5. The wealthier we become, the less we care about appearances. When I was growing up, I felt a lot of shame and embarrassment from being broke and struggling with money. Whether it was things like not wanting kids to know that I was on the free lunch program, or trying to sew Nike swooshes on plain t-shirts. I did whatever I could to try to hide the fact that our family didn't have money. So I understand what it's like to want to try to hide your money struggles by looking wealthier than you are. And I am very guilty of always caring too much about what other people have thought of me. But since becoming debt-free, my confidence has really grown in this area. I'm no longer ashamed to buy used clothing, a thrift shop and, garage sale shirt example here. And at the same time, the disdain that I feel for America's flashy, hollow culture has grown as well. Now, this is not meant to throw shade on anybody who enjoys spending money on their appearances. I know a lot of people enjoy a lot of the things that I'm going to mention right now, and that's not to say that that is bad in any way. I'm just saying that I've gotten a lot of confidence from having wealth and having money and being debt-free that has replaced that desire to look wealthy. It's just an observation that I've made that I care less and less about spending money on hair, nails, clothes, car, house, jewelry, shoes, purses, all the things. Just I care less about now than I used to. The purse that I use most of the time is literally a $5 fanny pack from Walmart. My car is a $1,400 car according to kbb.com. And probably the biggest example of this is our house. Now, I've talked on here before about how we bought our $210,000 house in cash, and how ultimately a lot of people in the same position might have taken that $210,000 and used it as a down payment on a flashy, nice, big $1 million home. Instead, we chose to buy a relatively average but nice, it is a nice, 3-bedroom house that we love. We didn't get the fanciest house that we could have afforded. We got a reasonable house that we could afford. Lesson number 6, and this is the final lesson learned, it's that debt freedom equals freedom. Ultimately, being debt-free has given us so much more freedom in our lives. It's mental freedom from having to be stressed about money all the time. It's the freedom of choice to get to work where we want, live where we want, be with who we want. Here are just a few of the things we've been able to do since we became debt-free. I was able to travel down to Colorado twice to spend time with my dad for about a month after his heart surgery. We have been able to dramatically increase the amount of money that we give to charities. We've been able to go on very expensive vacations that have been very fun and relaxing, upwards of $7,000 for a vacation, which, side note, is interesting because when I was doing the research for this article, I was curious about how much money Americans pay in interest every year, and I found that the average American homeowner pays about $7,000 per year in interest alone. Like I said before, $2,151 is the monthly payment, so that's $24,000 per year of payments. $7,000 of that is strictly interest expense, and so that's money just down the toilet. No wonder why it's so hard for the average American to save money and to save for retirement if $7,000 a year is going into interest payments to the bank. And then the final example that I have is that I was actually able to quit my job so that I could work on Finance Rocks full time. Since our monthly expenses are so low, we can rely on one income instead of two, and we actually are still even saving 40 to 50% of our income on a regular basis, even with just the one. Let's talk about full financial freedom. Being able to save and invest so aggressively is really setting us up for even more future freedoms, even full financial freedom. We are making more progress all the time on our goal to be financially independent, retired early, or FIRE, if you're familiar with that. The ultimate goal is to have enough money invested that we could just live off of the returns every year and not even need to touch the principal. And ultimately, my husband and I both like working. We both like the work that we do. We really don't have any plans to quit working, but having the money in the bank that could pay our expenses is a really exciting goal. And we are really looking forward to being 100% work optional. So basically, whatever would happen with our health, knock on wood, just having that security of having enough money in the bank to just live off the returns, that really is freedom. If your goal is to become debt-free, go for it. It is such a worthwhile goal. I don't regret any of the things that I did to save money. I don't regret any of the time spent working. I always think of it as like going to the gym. It's a lot of work. I don't always feel like doing it, but I am always glad that I went. I'm always glad when it's over. Some things are going to be more difficult than you expect along the way. Some things are going to be easier. Ultimately, I believe you're going to surprise yourself with how much you're able to accomplish with your finances. That's all I have for you today. I hope you're feeling amped up. I hope you're feeling motivated to tackle that debt and find your own slice of freedom and happiness, financially, of course. Let me know in the comments below what was the most helpful takeaway from this video. And subscribe to my channel if you want to be notified of new videos every week where I share more about how to pay off debt, how to experience less financial stress, and really find confidence and joy in your finances. Thank you guys, and until next time, I hope your finances rock.